Hi and welcome to Naturally Twisted's rope tutorials. Today we're going to do a very classic tie called a tasuki, and the tasuki comes from the rope that is used to tie back a kimono when the person's doing manual duties or anything that they want the sleeves out of the way. I've heard a few different reasons for its use, but I'll just leave it at that because I'm not a historian. Okay, but the basics of a tasuki are that it's a gote style in that the hands are behind the back like this. Then the ropes come up over and crisscross the front very, very simply. So it's a really good tie to do with one rope, and it's a very good tie to do to play with, or to, you know, because it's very, very fluid. It's also quite safe. It really doesn't go near anything that you need to worry about too much. So what I'm going to do quickly is just start with a single column tie around the wrists like this. Just very simple. Make sure that the knot's tied right up at the top here, not further down, because if you tie it and the knot's down here, what will happen is as you're tying and as the person moves a little bit, what you'll find is that slips up and it puts a lot of slack into the rope. So I'm just going to come straight across the chest and above the breast, and then under the arm. And now you'll see that I didn't put it over her hand. I've actually just put it between the hand and the arm like this. Okay, now I've come under the middle line and I'm going back over the front now. Now here's an important thing. We can go like this without doing anything at the joining point of these ropes, but it can mean that these ropes slip up towards the throat. Now, depending on what you're doing, in most cases that's not going to be dangerous, but it can kind of freak the person out a little bit. In a worst case scenario, it could impinge on their neck a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just a notame just here, like this. And what that does is it just, apart from looking pretty, it also just locks that rope so it's not going to move. Then I'm just going to come back round and under, like so, and under the arm. Now, one of the key things here is that I need to go under the rope here, okay? Because then this rope and this rope cross each other, which means they lock against one another. Whereas if I actually came over the top here, what happens is all of the three ropes are just wrapping around each other and they don't lock at all, which means that that has a tendency to slide, and we're going to try and avoid that. So coming underneath like so, okay? Now, when I do this, there's nothing to actually lock that off, so I'm going to need to do a friction here in the middle. My favourite way of doing that is just straight up over the middle like this, and back underneath on the other side like so. Okay, and then from there I can either go off to do another tie on the arms, or just to finish off you can just do a half hitch through the middle like so. Now obviously there's a fair bit of rope left over, which means that you have a lot of possibilities in terms of extending on this tie. One I like to do is just come straight over here and around this rope and then back around, which gives me a gote style. Another way to go is just to do a little hojo cuff here on the arm and then back over. The reality is if I'm going to do either of those, I'm going to need to add some rope on. Another way to do this tie, which I quite like, just going to get back to the start here. Okay, another way to do this tie, which I quite like, is instead of going over the arm here, is just come in between the arm and the body, and then do essentially the same tie, like this. remembering not to deflect this rope too much because we're going to have to pull it back the other way in a moment. So again, I'm going to do a knot-a-mee on the chest like this. Though you can also just do a twist like so. I prefer something that locks a little bit more solidly. So just a little knot-a-mee like that. Again, underneath the arm. And again, also we need to come under the middle line. So what this does is it creates a little harness over the chest and it completely avoids the arms, which a lot of people prefer. But what you do need to do then is just firm up the arms here a little bit. So I like to do that just by bringing the rope back down the middle line like this, and then through the cuffs, back up, and then you can just do a half hitch through the middle like this, or you can do something a little bit more fancy like so. Okay, and with this I'm going to end up with slightly more rope, so I can finish off with something like this. Now again, I'm just going to be slightly short. So normally I would add a little bit more onto that, or I wouldn't use such a complicated tie here in the middle and just do something a little bit smaller, which will free up a little bit of rope. And I think we'll probably make it then. Yep, only just. Like so. So there's the Tasuki and a couple of variations. I hope you enjoy. Thanks very much.